Michigan fans would like to forget the 2020 football season, but the 2020 NFL draft was pretty kind to Michigan football with 10 selections. We're going to size up 2021 with Justin Rowe from Stadium and Main podcast. Hey, Justin, how's it going today?
Not too bad. I'm doing well over here. How are you?
Doing well. It's great to get outside just about every day and not have to put on a jacket, feel comfortable, feel warm, feel the warmth of the sun, kind of forget what that feels like.
It was 80 degrees yesterday here in Ann Arbor. So that's pretty good for late April here. So we can feel summer coming. You know, spring ball has ended over here. And I think these guys are ready to get these summer workouts, but it does. It feels nice. It's good stuff. This is one of my favorite seasons here.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy in Savannah, Georgia yesterday, and he said, "How's the weather up there? Is it still cold?" And I said, "No, it's like pushing 70 today." He's like, "Oh, so it's still pretty cold up there?" Okay.
All right. Yeah.
No, we're feeling pretty good about it. Exactly.
Right.
All right. So as I mentioned off the top, for those keeping score of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, they can feel good about the Wolverines matching the Buckeyes last year 10-10 in the NFL draft. Maybe not so many players coming off the board this year, but let's start with a hot commodity in Kwity Paye.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride for Kwity Paye. I know the NFL Network and some other things have done some really cool pieces on him, but he actually, escaped a civil war in his younger days and came over here. His father actually didn't make it out of that war, but him and his mom came over here when he was a youngster. And so he is, that has been kind of his drive, his whole career. And so it's been pretty cool. It's a great story to see him, hopefully live his dreams out in these next couple days. But, some people have him going very early. Some people have him going as the first edge rusher off the board come Thursday. And so it's been pretty exciting to see that. He's a guy, he was named, I think, the biggest freak in college football this past season, where he is just unbelievably talented and just a gigantic human being. So I think there was a video that came out of him from him the other day too, where, he's, I don't know exactly what he weighs, but he's, a giant human being, but he was doing corner and safety defensive back drills where, changing direction, catching balls and stuff like that. So he was showing off his athleticism, which I think is huge to his advantage.
Is he a case in which his collegiate career was good? It wasn't exceptional necessarily, but then he jumped off the board in regards to once the measuring stick came out and they started to measure all those drills and everything that a guy like he can do athletically.
Definitely. That was definitely it. I don't think you would, you're not going to look at his stats at Michigan and say, wow, this guy really jumps off the page. But then you look at his size, you look at his ability, you look at his combine stats, and you're like, dang, he could probably do something for us. And so I think his character builds into that as well. Great kid, has a great head on his shoulders. And so I think that, I think there are a lot of teams that are really excited for him come next fall once they do draft him. And so he's definitely a guy that I think Michigan fans probably wish, last fall especially, but just with his time here, him and Aiden Hutchinson should have been this, dynamic duo, and they never really were, and there were some other, I think the biggest problem is they didn't have the defensive tackles to plug things up so those guys could really run loose. But when you did see Kwity Paye and Aiden Hutchinson get through and make some of those plays, you're like, all right, I can see it. I can see it. So it just didn't happen, I think, as consistently as a lot of people would have thought.
So based on some of the mock drafts that you look at and trust, where would we expect Kwity Paye to go?
Yeah, I think a lot of people see him, I've seen him in the top 10, but I've also seen him probably most from like 15 to 25 range. So later in the first round, but it seems like he's been climbing for the past probably 2-3 months. And it's just every day he comes out with a higher draft slot. So I think originally he was slotted in the second or third rounds, and now he's up in that mid first round. And I think some people could even see him going top 15.
For those college football fans and analysts, even in media, that are honest in assessing offensive linemen, it's difficult unless you rewatch and rewatch and rewatch games. And then the measurables certainly come into effect as well at any position, but offensive line, again, because there are no statistics, traditional statistics, advanced statistics, and metrics have come out certainly here in the last 5 to 15 years and one that you pointed out to me before we started to record regarding Jalen Mayfield is, and this seems like a pretty bottom line stat, he's given up 2 sacks in his collegiate career.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you take that stat as it is, it's impressive, right? It's something that, I don't know how many people can say that from a left tackle standpoint. And so Jalen Mayfield, he had some injury issues last year with an ankle, and so he didn't play a full season. So I think that has hurt his draft stock a little bit, but I'm surprised at how low he is. And right now it's looking like he's, third round, maybe mid to late third round, where I think he could, maybe if he would have played a full season and Michigan had a good year, maybe he'd be looking first or second round. So maybe that has something to do with it, but he's a guy who's been a big boy, his entire career. He came in as a high recruit and then also, left on a good standpoint with great stats. And so, I see him as probably a guy that will pan out. He's going to be, I think, a steal in the third round for somebody come 3 or 4 years from now when he starts getting, into a rhythm. But another guy who I think he has a pretty solid character, but he's also got a lot of drive. He's kind of now taken this approach that he's kind of being snubbed a little bit. He thinks he's a first rounder. And so I think he's a guy that's going to take that to heart and put it on his shoulders and really, if whoever gets lucky enough to take him, I think they really could be very happy come, like I said, 3-4 years down the road.
Maybe Jalen Mayfield needs to remind NFL scouts that he's not responsible for once the ball leaves the quarterback's hands. He can only protect a guy. That's the best he can do.
Exactly. I think definitely, Michigan's offensive woes this past season could not have helped him, right? And so the other thing to think about there too is the rest of the offensive line in 2020 was not great. And so when he was in there, and he was banged up when he was in there, he was carrying a lot of weight. And so it doesn't help. It doesn't help for your stats. It doesn't help for the film and all that stuff. And so I hope that he's able to, show enough film from his past years other than 2020, as well as his combine stuff, to really prove to some of these teams that they're going to choose a great guy in Jalen.
And maybe what Mayfield would have been telling those quarterbacks is, I got my hands full, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of what's going on downfield, but I hear word in the locker room is you might want to throw to that Nico Collins a little bit more often, or if he listens to you, because certainly you've mentioned that a time or two to me. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not the only one. I think every fan out there is thinking, can we get the ball to Nico Collins? And it's really, once you look back on it, I truly believe this, that we are 4 or 5 years from now, Michigan fans and us are going to say, what the heck was Michigan doing not getting the ball to Nico Collins? I see his comp to a Kenny Galladay type. He's fast. He's big, 6'4". He can go get those 50-50 balls, but he still runs great routes. The one thing that Michigan has not done well is throw the deep ball. And he's a guy who can go get deep balls. And so, I see in the next couple of years, we're going to say, oh my God, what was Jim Harbaugh doing? What was Josh Gaddis doing in not throwing the ball, not getting the ball to Nico Collins, 10 times a game? And I think that's been Michigan's real big problem, is not getting the ball to their playmakers and letting it happen. That's where I think most Michigan fans are jealous. They see Jalen Waddle in the national championship game have like 15 catches, and they're like, they can do that, and they've got 3 other guys at wide receiver that are really good too. Michigan has only a couple of good guys, and they still can't get the ball to them. So, but in terms of Nico Collins, I see him as probably a second-round pick. I do think him sitting out this last season did hurt his draft stock. I don't know. You talk to a lot of other guys around the country. Kind of seems like guys that sat out this 2020 season, it has not boded well for them. They've dropped a little bit because the film isn't there. There's just a bunch of things that go into that. And I understand why guys do opt out, but seems like for Nico Collins specifically, and then, some other guys around the league, it hasn't boded well for them if they did opt out.